Hi, today we're going to do an unboxing video, but this isn't going to be an ordinary unboxing video. I've had a few people ask me why I don't do more unboxing videos. The real answer to that is a lot of the stuff they make nowadays is boring. Nobody really cares. You know, you can watch me unbox a speaker for an intercom system that's made 2 weeks ago, or some cheesy doorbell that costs $24 that nobody cares, and they're not interesting. So today we're going to do an unboxing video that is interesting. At least I hope it will be. Today we're going to do a vintage unboxing video. And what we have here today, even though it's a little hard to see, we have a NuTone Electronic Door Chime made by NuTone Incorporated at Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm pretty sure that this is going to be an early 1960s chime, or a 1960s chime anyway, because you can tell by the printing on the box. This is a pattern that they used on a lot of the door chime boxes back in those days. And if you look really carefully right here, this is the best one to see, you have this little musical note symbol, and then you have these two ellipses that are circling it. You have atoms flying around the musical note. This was a symbol that NuTone used to show that it's an electronic musical chime. Let's take a look and see what their idea of an electronic musical chime was like back in the day. If we flip it around, take a look on the end, we'll find out that it's a Model L72N in off-white. And down here the box is kind of tattered, but that's okay. It says this electronic chime is to be used with NuTone Intercom Radio or NuTone Stereo Intercom Systems. And the label's kind of torn away here, but it says NuTone Electronic Deluxe, built-in door chime, 8-note, don't know what it said here. And then it's got NuTone's address. So this is a new old stock chime. The box is in kind of rough shape. Let's take a look and see what's inside, because I know what it is, but I bet you don't. So we'll get out our trusty zebra knife, and let's go ahead and open her up here. And we've got a wide variety of some stuff in here. We've got something wrapped up in cardboard with bubble wrap. I don't think they used bubble wrap back in those days. I think that was the person that sent this to me. And here we have a chime. And here we have the chime cover. And now we have an empty box. And no, I'm not going to throw it on the floor because I don't want to break the box. So what we have here is an L72N, is a recessed 8-note bar chime. For those of you who watched one of my other videos where I did a review of a 1965, I forget, it was an L42, I think. This is very similar in the way the mechanism operates, but it's in an entirely different form factor. The other video was a 4-note long tube brass chime, and this is a recessed bar chime, but it operates in very much the same way. So this would have been the deluxe model of the day for a recessed 8-note chime that you could hook to an intercom system, because the long tube for an 8-note chimes, while they're really great chimes, you can't connect them to an intercom system. There isn't any provision to do that. However, this one you can, and that's what makes this one electronic. We begin by looking at the heart of the chime, which is the Telecron motor assembly, which is mounted to the circuit board behind it. This is what makes the chime operate. And this is just like the 1965 chime. However, there are some variations on it. You have your standard wire connections down the center here. You have the common and transformer terminals, which is where the power wires from the remotely mounted transformer would be connected. And then you have connections for the front, side, and rear doorbell buttons. And one wire from each button will go under the appropriate screw, and then the second wire from each button will be attached under the common terminal. Down here at the bottom you have the least used and most often misunderstood connection on any NuTone 4 or 8-note chime, which is the EXT front connection. This stands for external front. This would be used if you had two of these chimes in the same house. You could run a wire from this terminal to the terminal, the front terminal on the second chime, and when this chime is activated, it will automatically activate the second chime. Most people don't have that. I don't think I've ever seen a house where that actually was done. One of the differences between this type of chime design and a 4 or 8 note long tube chime based design from the same period is the long tube chime on the motor mounting base right here, there would be a switch and it would say 8 and 4, and you would move the switch to the number of rings that you want the chime to play. In this case, the switch has been removed and a piece of tape has been put over the opening, and I'll show you why that is in a second. Over here we have these two screw terminals, and these are the terminals that you would run wires from these two screws to your NuTone intercom system to send the sounds of the chime to the intercom system, which would then amplify it up and send it out to all the intercom speakers throughout your house. Contrary to what a lot of people may think, this is not actually a Westminster chime. And if you look through the NuTone literature of the day and even later and today, they won't call it a Westminster chime. It's just a 4 or 8 note chime. And the reason that is because you need 4 notes to have a true Westminster chime. And as you can see here, we only have 3 tone bars. Long tube chimes have 4 tubes, and that's a Westminster chime. So NuTone never called them Westminster chimes when they're a 3 note chime that plays 4 or 8 notes. But it simulates the sound of a Westminster chime fairly reasonably, and only the most hardcore people that are into this kind of thing would notice the difference. The order of the notes are 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6, 7, and 8. And that's how you get your 8 notes. And it sounds something like this. And it does a fairly good job of simulating a real Westminster chime. Now, there are a very rare and very obscure group of 8 note bar chimes. That's what this is. This is an 8 note bar chime. There are a very few models that NuTone made that actually have 4 tone bars. And I actually have one of those, and later on I'll be making a video about that. And those sound completely different than what this sounds like. Let's go ahead and take a look at what it means by being electronic. If you were looking very, very carefully, you might have noticed these little blue wires. And they come out from behind the tone bars. This is a mechanical chime, and it needs to have a way to pick up the sounds of the tone bars and send them to the intercom system, which then amplifies it up and sends it out through all the intercom speakers. So how do you do that? And particularly, how do you do that in 1965? Well, the way you do that is, 1964, that's what the date says. The way you do that is very much like what you do when you make an electric guitar. What you have back here, which you can just sort of see the edge of right here, this little white edge right here, is you have an electromagnetic pickup coil. So right here you can sort of see the white area with the blue wires. In the center of the white plastic is a round metal disc, and behind the disc is a coil of wires, and it works just like the pickup on an electric guitar. So when the plunger strikes the tone bar vibrates, which is just like plucking the string on a guitar, and the pickup coil picks up the vibrations and it sends them to the intercom system, which then amplifies it up and sends it out through all the intercom speakers. This is the part that makes the chime electronic. It's not electronic in the sense that it has a circuit board and transistors and things like that. It has electromechanical pickup coils to pick up the vibrations of the tone bars. NuTone came up with this type of design with the electromagnetic pickups all the way back in 1957 with the very first intercom radio system, the model 2011 and 2012, and that was a revolutionary new idea back in the day. That chime was a model L70. This fundamental design with the pickup coils and tone bars and so forth was in use all the way through the end of, say, 1983. And in 1984, we have the first intercom chime modules, which are an electronic board that reproduce the chime sounds of a chime like this. And these electromechanical doorbells sort of fell out of favor because it was one less box you had to put on the wall, so people liked the idea of not having a doorbell up on the wall anymore. And to show you how dedicated NuTone is to their fundamental design from 1957, all NuTone intercom systems made all the way through the end of 2008 always had connections on the master station where you could hook up a chime like this. Even in 2006 or 2007 or 2008, when chime modules were all the thing to have, and just by default you would include one with an intercom system, there still was a provision that you could hook up an existing chime like this in case the customer liked the way it sounded and wanted to keep it. So they never ever gave up on their fundamental design, and they never left customers in the lurch if they already had a chime that they really liked. So let's take our L72 out of its mounting box. We'll see how this comes out. I've never actually taken one of these apart before. I have repaired lots of these, but I don't think I've ever, I know I've never installed a new one because this was way before my time. Let's see if we can get it out without wrecking it. It's kind of wedged in there well with its cardboard and so forth. Oh wait, I know. The cardboard goes all the way around on the back. How tricky is that? Okay, so how do we get this out? I think what we have to do is sort of pry it out a little bit. There we go. Okay, so there's our chime mechanism been removed. And here's our mounting enclosure. We'll get rid of the cardboard. And we've got some, see, back in those days, they gave you mounting screws. And this is our what would be our rough-in enclosure. So this would be mounted to a stud in the wall before the house was sheetrocked or maybe plastered, and you would put the flange here up against the edge of the stud like this and fasten it with the screws that they gave you. If your contractor was doing a really good job, he'd put another block on this side so it was really very secure in the wall, and then all of the wires would come in through the wall cavity into here. And then once all that's done, you would take the cardboard and slip it inside and maybe put some tape on it. So when the sheetrockers and the painters and all those folks do their thing, you don't get a big mess inside the enclosure. Then when it's time to trim out the chime, you'd come back with your chime mechanism and note that it's marked top here because you have to put it in the right way. And then you would slide this back into the enclosure and fasten it in place, and you're all done. There are mounting screws for the mechanism also, so they give you everything you need to put this together. Of course, getting it out of the box when it's not in the wall is a little tricky. Once you get that in and you get the base put back in, then you have to finish it out. And the way you finish it out is you have to put the cover on. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So our cover here in off-white is special. So what we have here, this would mount on the wall like this. So it really is a recessed chime. The cover is only about, it's less than a half an inch thick, so it's very flush on the wall. You have this reasonably decorative cloth with the little gold strands in it. And down here you have a decorative plate in what they used to call champagne gold. That's this color. That was a very popular color that they used for metal trim pieces in the 60s and 70s. And of course here it says electronic chime. You have two adjustments on here. You might have noticed if you've watched some of the other chime videos that the base unit here has no volume adjustment. And also, as we talked about, there's no 4 or 8 note switch. Since this is a recessed chime, and once you screw the cover on and you trim it out, you wouldn't want to be taking the cover off all the time to make adjustments or anything like that. So they've moved the volume switch and the 4 and 8 note switch to the front of the cover. So over here we have a volume adjustment, and it goes from low to high, and you can adjust it as you like. And here you have tones, and it's 4 or 8. So if we move it to the left, it's now in the 4 note position, and if we move it to the right, it's in the 8 note position. And when you install the cover, there's this multi-pinned socket on the back of it, and this plugs in to the pins in here. So here are our pins. This is where the volume adjustment would normally be on a long tube chime. And all you do is you take your socket. This will be a little hard to see. You take your socket assembly and you align it correctly, and it's going to be impossible to show you this because it's way too short. This socket plugs into those pins, and that's what connects the tone switch and the volume control to the chime. So there you have it, an unboxing video of a vintage NuTone L72N recessed 8-note bar chime. The bar chimes, in my opinions, are some of the nicest chimes that NuTone ever made. They have a wonderful, nice, rich sound to them. They're a very long-lasting chime. Like all of these chimes, if yours has been in the house since 1964, which is when this one was made, that would make it 53 years old. It's probably in need of some service, just like all of these chimes are. Servicing one of these is exactly the same as servicing a long tube chime. It's just in a different form. The Telecron motor assemblies come out and they can be cleaned, and behind them can be cleaned. And the solenoid assemblies, they actually unscrew from the back and pop out, and they're connected with all these little wires like always. It's not a terribly difficult one to do. And when I get one of these in from a customer, I'll make a video that shows you how to actually do that. So that's our vintage unboxing video for today. I hope you like this video and perhaps you learned something from it. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up on YouTube because that always helps. There'll be a banner right here that shows you how to subscribe. Just click on the bell on our YouTube banner at the top of the channel, and you can put in your email address, and then you'll receive notifications when we post a new video. That's all for today. See you on the next video. Oh, one more thing before you go. I almost got in trouble. So this is Harvey. Harvey's a hedgehog, and Harvey is our shop mascot, and he's also the executive producer of all of our YouTube videos. And he's pretty demanding, and he likes to crack the whip and be a slave driver. And just as I finished up the last shot, he jumped down off the shelf and he ran over the workbench and he says, "You didn't ring the chime. The people want to ring the chime. That's the big payoff. That's why they sat through the video, so they can hear the chime ring." And I guess he's right. So he had me wire it up, and now I'm going to ring it for you. And of course he said that since it was his idea and he had to remind me, he gets to be in the shot too. He also wanted me to point out the fact that his award-winning medallion here matches the gold in the trim on the faceplate. He says it's not champagne gold, it's probably real gold, and it's shinier than the NuTone stuff, but he says he's worth it. So here we go. This is for Harvey because he makes me do this. Not only is it a really pleasant sounding chime all on its own, it's also especially nice when you hear it ring through all of your speakers throughout your house in 1964. That's all. Thanks, Harvey. He says see you on the next video too.